All right. Well, good Friday morning, Rotary District 7770. Welcome to Conversations with Rotary Action People for Friday, December 11th. We're pleased to be joined this morning by Dan the Pigman, who will be presenting to us in just a few minutes. My name is Donald Hovis, your CWRAP host, and I'm from the Chicora Rotary Club in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and I'm currently sitting at Chicora Rotary. So how about that? Live in person here. Really excited about some barbecue. We're getting ready to have our Rotary meeting and enjoy some lunch. But if you're not hungry, I'm sure by the end of this segment today, I'm sure you will be hungry. So we're excited for it. Introducing your CWRAP team, our public image chair from the 5 Points Rotary Club in Columbia, the wonderful Mary Mr. Dan. So Mary's going to be leading the program here in just a few minutes, but thank you, Mary. And also our district communications officer from the Somerville Evening Rotary Club in Somerville, Mr. Terry Moore. Terry, good to see you, sir. Thanks for being here. Those of you on here, appreciate your patience this morning. How about you go over to the chat box and let's see your name, your Rotary Club, and we are 2 weeks from Christmas, right? 2 weeks from today, 14 days away. What is your favorite thing either to make or enjoy during the Christmas season? Whether that's a drink or something to eat or a snack or what have you. How about put that in the chat box for us? And we may call on some of you and announce what you're famous for making, maybe at the end of today's segment. But to lead today's interview, Mary Gask.
Thanks, Donald. Hey, Dan.
Hey, Mary, how you doing this morning?
I'm good. I'm going to give you a little bit of background about Dan, and then we're going to let him do the talking, and we've got a PowerPoint. He's going to explain some of his photos on the PowerPoint. But right now, Dan lives in York, South Carolina, and is from York. And I'm so sorry Bob Gross is not on here because I think Bob is from York. I think he knew your dad.
Oh, wow, great.
Yeah. But anyway, Dan has a real diverse background that has molded him into the caterer that he is today. But he didn't start out as a caterer. He has won writing awards in investigative reporting, short stories, poetry. He published a book on extreme barbecue, and he was a political reporter with the Charlotte Observer. So with all this writing background, why catering and why barbecue?
Part of it's what's happened to the newspaper industry. I worked for the Observer for 26 years until the recession in 2008. And there are a lot of people in our newsroom that were certainly laid off, like a lot of other newspapers. But I had been cooking on the weekends since the mid '90s, and my dad ran a textile mill, and when I was a kid, they would have catfish stews, barbecues, and a peculiar South Carolina dish that I'm real fond of called chicken bog. And I learned at an early age, particularly in the South, you don't do things like barbecue in isolation. It's a community activity. And quite frankly, although the barbecue is great, what I particularly liked, particularly as a kid, was gather around a fire late at night. And we're usually ale dominant, a bit of drink there, and tell stories, stir the pot, flip the pig, whatever. And I just got started. I was evolved into that community. This was before the internet and Food Network and things like that. wasn't really politically correct. The subculture that I was drawn to, and particularly in the lower part of the state, particularly in African American or Gullah communities, and it just kind of took off from there. I became a newspaper reporter and used my barbecue experience sometimes to kind of open up political candidates. And when I was a kid, I interned for Senator Thurman one year and traveled with him to what they used to call stump meetings around this state. And in these, Senator Thurman didn't drink, but he sure ate. And he loved these barbecues to draw people in. A stump meeting, and he'd go to bed early, and I'd be kind of bored, and I'd go out to the fairgrounds or wherever they were doing the barbecue, and mostly some African Americans, some whites, kind of a mixed crowd, and I just kind of fell in with them. I don't think they'd ever really had anyone ask them questions about what they did. But I was very curious about it. And then, as a newspaper reporter, later I drew on that when we'd go to McClellanville or Monk's Corner or someplace. I would, say, yeah, I was here for a barbecue and we did this and that, and so it was a good entree for me.
Well, it also, 2003, traveled to Buenos Aires, Istanbul, and the Peloponnese region of Greece. And you said that somehow changed your idea about barbecue and how it should be cooked?
Mary, one of the, when I was at Georgia Tech, one of the frames of reference I came across, I think it was in an anthropology class, was about ethnocentrism. And ethnocentrism is when you think that your culture is superior to all other cultures, primarily because you're not familiar with other sorry, my thing fell. With other cultures. And what I learned from that was growing up in the Carolinas, I thought that universe and a barbecue universe. And when you go to a place like the Peloponnese in southern Greece, one of the first things you come across is I remember crossing the Corinthian canal, and I was looking down there and I saw a sign. I said, "Corinthian, is that like the Bible?" And the guy was saying, "Yeah, that's like the Bible." And the next thing I saw was an old sheep herder on the side of the road with one of those jalabi robes on, and he had a sign that said BBQ. And it was amazing to me what was going on. And I realized that this was, this was a, phenomenon. And, South Carolina wasn't the center of the barbecue universe. It wasn't even the center of the U.S. barbecue universe. And I was able to travel into Istanbul and learn about their vertical lamb roasting. And that was fascinating. But what really changed my attitude and led to my book was traveling to Buenos Aires and kind of entrenching myself in a group of gauchos at a estancia in southern Argentina near Patagonia. And I saw that these guys were, you know, kind of my mentors. They were the godfathers of barbecue. I mean, they roasted whole cows, lambs, not as much pork as we do, but a lot of beef. And I began to see that this concept that I grew up with was not, you know, it was not restricted to the Carolinas, that this was a worldwide phenomenon, what I refer to as meat, metal, and fire. And I also learned that kind of through humility that everybody likes to brag about the barbecue that they grew up with, whether it's in Texas or Tennessee or North Carolina, South Carolina. But what I've come to learn is it's all good. It's all meat, metal, and fire. And in the Carolinas, it just happened to be, you know, pigs. This is a good environment to raise pigs. And the origins of our barbecue came up from the Caribbean with the pirates, from the Carib Indians. And as I like to say, once it got in around Charleston and up toward the Outer Banks of Wilmington, the influence in the late 1600s kind of just kind of wafted inland like hickory smoke. And it became, you know, it wasn't a European thing at all to cook a whole animal, but it was very much with the Native Americans, and we've simply adopted that system here in the Carolinas.
I also see that you lecture on Southern food traditions before serving at pig pickings. This is interesting. Legal moonshine tastings, oyster roast, catfish fries, and low country shrimp bowls. Do you demonstrate your cooking as you lecture, or you serve the food and then you lecture the people?
I usually, Mary, come in and cook. I did a thing in York a couple of years ago where I had helped write an introduction for a USC Press history on the textile mill culture in the Carolinas circa about 1950. And when I was giving the lecture at the McKelvey Center, I did a Brunswick stew on a big cast iron pot, cauldron, about 20 gallons. And it was really fascinating to me. It was kind of mill culture food. And we did it with cornbread, iron skillet cornbread. Cornbread brought out a lot of old timers who had grown up in mill villages and whatnot. And it was kind of a vehicle or a lubricant to get them to talk about what this book was, which was, it was called The Mill Hands of Kent, The Mill Ways of Kent. It's a great book. It's a part of a 3-part trilogy that they did here in South Carolina, and they just recently published the 50th anniversary of that book. But again, you know, we give talks. I did a thing in California in 2015 for the Patagonia clothing company. They do mountaineering jackets and ski jackets and stuff. And their CEO, Yvonne Chenard, had invited me out there, and we cooked for their 700 employees in Ventura, California, just north of Los Angeles. And you know, I'd never cooked in Southern California before, and I thought it was going to be kind of hippie vegan food. And the guys laughed and they said, "No, we're not going to fly you and your cohorts from the Carolinas out here to California and try to cook hippie food. We want the real deal, what you grew up on. And I had to give a talk about sustainability and about, you know, how I was in one industry and it fell apart, newspapers, and I had to kind of reinvent myself as Dan the Pig Man. Most of my customers and fans don't even know my last name is Huntley. I've had people think that that's my actual name, Pigman. And but when we were out in California giving a talk about it, they were genuinely interested. They had never heard of hush puppies. They had never heard of Brunswick stew. And I mean, as far as they were concerned, I had invented those things. And then we did 7 hogs on the beach. And it was really a fascinating experience for me and, you know, maybe some of the people there about something that I grew up with that was as common as sliced white bread. And when I was in California, I was a pretty exotic adventurer, but, you know, talking to world travelers who had never cooked whole hogs like this and just were not familiar with the whole Carolina tradition is kind of we have a really good museum in Charlotte called the Levine Museum of the New South. And I've done several lectures there. And one time we did, a lot of people don't know this about gumbo. They always associate gumbo with New Orleans, but the word gumbo comes from Senegal, which is the word gamba, and gamba is okra, and okra is the prime ingredient in gumbo to thicken it. And the slaves that came in here to the Carolinas in the South from Senegal brought okra seeds with them. And the first recorded gumbo was outside of Georgetown in the late 1600s. And the slaves, they didn't have meat and you couldn't thick it up. It was just, you know, like a vegetable soup with no stock. And so when you put the okra in there and they kind of get slimy and they get that mosalingus or whatever it's called, that's the, you know, for poor people, one, it reminded them of home in Africa, and 2, it would thicken a meatless stew. And so the first gumbo was here. And that's the kind of culture that I love to kind of experiment with, look in. If there's a book called the Encyclopedia of South Carolina, done by the University of South Carolina, and in there they have a one-page entry on Frogmore stew. I spent a week researching Frogmore, and what I found out was, besides there's no frogs in it, there's a little community in Beaufort County near Ladies Island, and it was there's a plantation there, and I'm sorry, there was a plantation there, and it came from southern England, the name of Frogmore, and we give lectures on this all the time, and we cook it in one pot. And the beauty of Frogmore and its indigenous nature to South Carolina and the Low Country is with the Gullah Geechee African American community. They like these big pots. They couldn't do multiple pans, so the whole deal with a Frogmore, also known as a Low Country boil, is to layer your food in there. You stagger the cook time so it all comes out at one time, and it's pretty much the most famous dish in South Carolina. If you look in this Encyclopedia of South Carolina, I got to write the entry. I mean the thing on Frogmore, and it was fascinating to me. And that's part of my kind of rambling talks when I cook.
Now, Dan, we've got some photos that you sent me. I'm going to screen share, and hopefully you'll be able to see them. And if you can just tell us briefly about each one, because we really do have a time frame here. So I'm going to, and I'm sorry we don't have time to hear about when you went to a country, I think it was India, and you couldn't take any knives, but that's another day, another story. Let me do the screen share and see if we can get your PowerPoint up here.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Can you see it?
I'm impressed that you brought that up. On the right, it's just a logo that goes with my food truck. On the left is me in costume. That's a baby pig in front of me on a rotisserie at a Mardi Gras celebration. We cook all sorts of pigs. This was, let's see, this was last weekend in Charlotte. And that's a what we call oysters dragos, which is a Serbian style of cooking oysters on the half shell. We cook it in a 60-inch wide paella pan, and the guests just fork the grilled oysters out of the pan. It's pretty impressive. We have a lot of fun with it. This was from the 1890s from down in Charleston, and it's made out of tupelo wood, and it's a single log which has been hollowed out, and it's porous wood, and they used to do their leaven their bread in the these troughs. And what that is, a Frogmore, and what we're doing is with a Frogmore, we simply added some Florida lobster tails to that. This is a gumbo, a chicken gumbo we were doing in an iron cauldron last weekend, and we serve it with rice. And again, I gave the talk about, the first gumbos not being from New Orleans, but from the Carolinas. This is some beef tenderloins we did for a wedding. We have I have about 4 or 5 big smoking rig trailers, and we did like 10 of these beef tenderloins. And we do a lot of pork barbecue, but we grill a lot of critters. I used to work on a fishing boat when I first got out of college, and I became real involved with smoking of saltwater fish. And these are some Alaskan salmon we smoked on alder wood. We do right before Thanksgiving, and we're doing a bunch right before Christmas that we deliver on Christmas Eve. And it's what they call a coal smoke. We actually have a pan of ice in our smoker to keep the temperature down, so you just get the smoke on the fish without actually cooking it. It's one of our specialties, and we get a lot of attention for those. This is the oyster dragos on that huge paella pan that's over the world's largest Weber grill, and I'm holding the lid for that. And that was actually at a ski resort we were doing. And again, I've never seen anybody else do it like this. It's just kind of evolved from the low country doing regular traditional oyster roast. This was at a really cool venue up in Charlotte. It was the old Ford assembly plant. I was cooking that night for a group of chefs, which sounds like a really fun job, but it's really intimidating. they didn't give me much instruction. And when you're cooking for a bunch of chefs, you got to kind of roll with the situation. And we had a big grill pit, and we did a side of beef and a bunch of other stuff that night. This is one of our Argentinian grills. I don't know if I've got a bigger shot of this, but it's the grill space is about 20 feet. And we're doing oysters, and then we're hanging legs of lamb and pineapple. And that grill surface that we're looking at where the oysters go, that goes 180 degrees, and it goes up and down, and it's a very elaborate grill. We cooked a whole cow, and this is one of those grills that nobody in their right mind would spend as much money or time to build one of these things. But after I went to Buenos Aires, they call these grills asadoras, and I just had to have one. And I found a welder blacksmith that kind of shared my vision. And if you know anybody out there that needs a whole cow cooked, this is about the only rig in the state that can actually do it. Did I lose you?
I don't know.
We're here. We're good.
Okay. If any of your folks have questions or anything like that, I don't know if you've got the technical capacity, but I'd be glad to answer any questions about that, or I can just ramble on.
I'm just going to click through the rest of these photos on the screen, and then if we have questions.
Okay, I'm not seeing the photos right now, but
Yeah, I figured you weren't, so we're just going to open it up to questions. Donald, have you? Oh, okay, yeah, there are a few of them up here. Have you been to Rodney Scott's?
Yeah. We have a home on Lake Wiley, and in 2008, they did a History Channel came and visited me with a guy named Larry, the cable guy, and they did a episode of me cooking an Ossabaw hog. And Rodney, who just had his one store at that time, I had heard about him and invited him up, and that was the first time he was that I know of, around a television series. And he's a great guy. He's got a place in Charleston, and he's also opened a place in Birmingham just recently. He's a great guy.
There's a question here that says, does Dan believe that mustard-based barbecue is the real South Carolina barbecue?
Good question. I used to run a restaurant down in Blythewood outside of Columbia, and we had so many requests for barbecue sauces and requests that, I want a sauce like my granddaddy had. Well, we had 12 different sauces on the tables, and 3 of those sauces were mustard. And we would get more arguments with people about, the nuances of this or that. I mean, Maurice Bessinger, I thought, had one of the best mustard-based sauces that I'd ever had. It's tangy, it's quirky, it's unique to South Carolina. I certainly have never really ran into any independently owned barbecue places anywhere outside of South Carolina that has it. Sometimes they'll have it as a novelty or something like that, just like the Alabama white sauce. I like it. It goes back to the German settlers who came back, and, bratwurst and how they did their sausages and stuff. Mustard was a big part of that. And I like it. But at my restaurant, I just said, screw it. I'm doing a red-based sauce and a mustard sauce, and they're our favorite sauces. And if you don't like it, go somewhere else.
Okay, Dan, we got one last question for you. What's the biggest event you've cooked for?
I cooked at an event out in Kansas City one time called the American Royale, and it's generally considered the largest barbecue competition in the world. And the weekend we were there, it was right beside the Kansas City football stadium. I think the crowd count on Friday and Saturday was right at 125,000 people, probably 500 pigs being cooked. We didn't place or do anything like that. We were ranked amateurs, and but it was good to kind of throw my hat in that were real influential in me getting a book deal to do these. My book is just about homemade cooking rigs. My rigs you can't buy them at Lowe's. These are what I call junkyard serendipity, made out of all oil oil tanks and stuff like that. If you want to see them, danthepigman.com. It's got lots of pictures of us cooking all around the world. It's fun. And I don't really make any money on it these days, certainly during the pandemic, but I have a lot of fun with it, and we're pretty restrictive about what we do and where we go. If the client doesn't have the same fire in the belly that me and my cooks do, it doesn't really matter how much money they got. We're not going to do it. We're not going to do well done roast beef or something like that. But, by God, we'll do a whole pig or a whole lamb or a side of beef or a paella or a gumbo. It's just what strikes our fancy.
And your book is Extreme Barbecue, correct?
Right.
And you can
find
get it
on
on
Amazon.com. It's out of print right now, but there's copies of it out there, certainly in libraries and things like that. But if you go to our website, you can get a pretty good sense of how we operate. I won't say it's a great business model, but it's a hell of a lot of fun.
And the website is danthepigman.com.
Right.
Okay, gotcha. I'll put that up there too.
And we're food whores. We're gypsies. We travel anywhere in the Carolinas, the Outer Banks, Asheville, Charleston, Edisto. It's just, what do you want the real thing? Do you want a real gumbo? You want a real frogmore? Do you want to know some history about it? And we're not much on hamburgers and hot dogs. And
you might even get a lecture on legal moonshine tasting, right?
Yeah. I've done a good bit on moonshine and got to drive Junior Johnson down to the University of Mississippi to give a lecture, and I interviewed him, and he's one of my all-time heroes. And he passed away recently, but he never drank, which was he went to federal prison for moonshining when he was a kid, and then was pardoned by President Reagan. But that's part of the lore. I mean, it's like he said that with his daddy making moonshine in the mountains of North Wilkesboro, he said it was a lot like he had a reputation for high quality, just like he did for curing country hams.
Dan, thank you so much. We appreciate it. In the interest of time, I'm going to turn this back over to Donald. Thank you for being with us. I appreciate it.
Glad to. Y'all have a good holidays.
Okay. Thank you, Dan.
Yep.
Donald, it's back at you.
All right. Well, thank you, Mary. And thanks again, Dan. Very interesting presentation. Wish we could have more time for you. But great job. Appreciate it.
All right. Great. It's what I call smoke, mirrors, and bullshit.
Thank you, sir. We're good, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Bye.
So just in essence of time, guys, I'm going to wrap this up pretty quick and say just a couple of announcements. One of those being, I said it on Wednesday. I'm going to say it again real quick. If you're in CWRAP today and you're part of a Rotary Club, which we all are, our speaker on Wednesday needs a huge crowd, folks. He is a quadruple amputee. Okay? Travis Mills, how about spread the word Wednesday at noon? I want a lot of people on Zoom. Okay? We would not have gotten Travis if it wasn't for Zoom. Wednesday at noon. Write it down, mark it down, share it with your friends, share it with your club. Wednesday at noon. Next Friday, we end CWRAP for the year with Christmas trivia. Wear your ugly sweater, wear your Christmas outfit, come and we'll just have a little Christmas party here 1 week from today. Last announcement, and I have to go to my email to pull this up. So bear with me a second. It's about District Happy Hour, which is going to change for December. It is still on December 17th, but it is now from 6 until 8. And it is a virtual Christmas carol sing-along from 6 to 8. It says, join in the good cheer, come as you are to listen or sing. The Christmas carols that will be sung will be, I believe, sent out. They're attached on my email, but only I got this email. So actually, I believe that was sent to everybody, actually. So you should have received that email from District Governor Pauline yesterday at 12:08. Well, guys, have a wonderful weekend. I'm going to conclude with the 4-way test, and we'll be on our way to the weekend. Other things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you on Monday for the next Conversations with Rotary Action People. Take care. That's a wrap.
Hey, guys, I told you he'd be colorful.